Hey everybody, it's Nick and Jay, and suddenly it's December and the penultimate race of the 2022 season at Sonoma Raceway. A bunch of teams at Sonoma got into the spirit, which, to use the common Craigslist vernacular, was immaculate.
Things kicked off right away with Team No Par, a bunch of rookies, and they had this performance in tech. And then it went on with Ranger Road. They had costumes. They really owned it this time, all the way down to a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stick.
And Sorry for Party Racing created a whole series of Lemons-themed Christmas lyrics to famous Christmas songs. Teams had to perform them in the penalty box if they got a black flag, and it turns out maybe a small percentage of Lemons drivers have ever actually heard a Christmas song. This is what I mean.
On the second day of Christmas, lemons. Old crab cans will bring some dum-dum-dum-dum. It's the most crashing time of the year. Taylor baby, and F for convertible to light blue. Dum-dum-dum-dum, dum-dum-dum-dum, dum-dum-dum-dum.
Now, this being December and this event being called the Arse-Freeze-Apalooza, we froze our arses. We really had a lot of weather, which was fun in its own way, unless you are the furry Mitsubishi of Team Mitsubishi. This is a car, by the way, it goes back to Altamont. Awesome car, great concept. Not, however, if there's freezing rain.
Now, you guys have heard the old saying, a bad workman blames his tools. Now, here at Lemons, when a driver wipes out on the track, comes into the penalty box and says, "It was the tires," we actually treat that as a teachable moment. Instead of giving that driver our usual series of humiliating penalties, we give them a little private time with the offending component so that the driver can explain in a constructive way what they did wrong.
When you grow up, you can't be like your father. See, I went to the racetrack, and even though I had tread, I still didn't have traction and spun out. So as you grow up, you gotta eat your veggies, you gotta eat your kale, you gotta definitely be nitrogen filled, not oxygen filled. And maybe you one day get to the track and you won't spin out.
Hello, sweet. We had a bunch of old regulars come back for this race in no particular order. And by the way, if we forget you, sorry, we're lazy and disorganized. We had the Frankenfalcon.
We had the hopelessly devoted Opel Wagon.
We had the Crown Vic Queen Victoria floating into port.
The Fiero Libre was there with new and improved Lucha Libre costumes.
And the Faster Farms Plymouth, which, let's be clear, has never looked better.
And we had Team Dickass.
Dick-ass, 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 dick-ass.
Now, they brought a mini Outrun video game console. You may be wondering, how would today's youth react to an outdated 40-year-old video game?
Now, in addition to those old-timers, we had also an old-timer car with new drivers. Great way to get into Lemons is you just go find an experienced, proven Lemons car and buy that ready to run. Well, that's what this team Bright as Bricks did. They got the old Thunder Chicken from Chuck Donnelly. Chuck Donnelly had moved up to an Avanti and then moved back down to a Subaru, which eventually won a race.
Wait a minute. Wouldn't winning a race be an upgrade?
No, come on. Look at it. It's got a chicken bucket on its roof. Come on.
And then we had a new team with a new car. This was the Fast and the Family.
There's always room for family.
And their BMW 633 CSI YU Green Classic. This is a good bunch of kids, and if you're thinking that a 633 is an expensive car, well, they had recouped some of the money back into their Lemons budget by selling parts off of the car that were already on there when they bought it. This is totally legal in Lemons if you document it, although they might have stretched their story a little bit because they were saying something about how the front turn signal lenses alone were worth like $300 each. God, I mean, even BMW wouldn't have the audacity.
And then we had another new team and another new car that didn't go quite so well. This was Colonel Angus and his Ford Focus. They didn't really get the cage done in time, and when they showed up, it was bad enough that it was never going to be done in time. Captain took it totally in stride. He had no help from his team at all, by the way. Zero. Totally cool guy. He was like, yep, I'll do better next time. See you then.
Now, as that guy in the Focus knows, prepping a car is one of the many stressful things about putting together a Lemons weekend. That's why it's super important to take some time out for mind, body, and soul. Well, Ellie from People's Republic of Racing helped out tremendously on that front by leading a pre-Saturday paddock party session of Lemons-themed yoga.
Yeah, she repurposed the sun salutation for, flagging your teammate, and the downward dog for checking for leaks under the car, the hollow hold for waiting for someone to bring you the 10mm socket while you're face down looking up. It was really great. And she even came up with the perfect appropriate mantra, Varum.
Varum. On to the awards. Judge's choice went to that first-time team with the brass instruments, no par. They immediately got into our good graces with the Christmas music, and they even let Dale reveal his own secret talent.
They brought this totally stock Dodge Colt. It ran kind of great, and then the day after the race, actually passed California's spot. So totally street registered and legal. Well, except the exhaust might be a little rowdy.
Moving on to Ranger Road, totally smooshed up the front end of their Volkswagen on track, immediately jumped into action cutting, fabbing, welding, replacing parts.
Aren't you actually confusing the previous Sonoma with this Sonoma, Nick?
Oh, yeah. No, they did the exact same thing at that race and at this one. They didn't win anything here, but I just wanted to touch on it.
The I Got Screwed trophy went to the Bernal Dads, which this requires a little bit of backstory. First of all, the Bernal Dads have been around for a really long time. They have primarily run this Volvo wagon in many different forms.
Tell me about the handling of your Volvo racing machine.
Immaculate. There were corners for other people. For me, it was just straights.
They gave themselves a 15th anniversary party at this race.
Happy birthday to us.
When Bernal Dads first started racing, which was 15 years ago, they would occasionally bring their kids, who at the time were toddlers, to Lemons races. Fast forward to now, those same kids are ready to enter their own car in a Lemons race, and they're all getting their driver's licenses.
Well, most of them. One of the Bernal kids, as they're called, left this until the very last minute and had his driver's test scheduled for the Wednesday before the race. Kind of do or die because, as you know, you must have a valid street license to drive in Lemons.
He failed this test, didn't he?
Rolled through a stop sign, so instant fail.
You know, I suppose that is one of the subtleties of driving, which we know as people who have been doing it for a long time, figuring out which of the many components of the stop sign concept involve stopping.
Yeah, you gotta read between the lines on that deal, yeah.
So anyway, they won the I Got Screwed, I assume is what we're getting to.
No, I Got Screwed went to Prince and the Revolution, who were in the wrong place at the wrong time and totally got ridiculously T-boned by a licensed driver.
Ah, it all makes sense now. Although I will say, the reduced traction caused by the inclement weather at this event, for whatever reason, had a disproportionate effect on all Mustangs.
The silver lining to all of this is that Prince and the revolutions per minute were able to find and purchase another tech-approved Lemons car in the paddock, so they were able to get back out on track, and they are going to come back to the next event they have already told us as Prince and the new powertrain generation. Hella sweet.
Heroic fix went to the team We Supra Bad and their Supra. Now this is the old AFART team. You remember this team. It's the one that used to race a Lancia Scorpion. They finally said, forget the Lancia Scorpion, we're gonna get us some Toyotas. This is incidentally the same thing my parents said after buying a VW Quantum and a Dodge Caravan in the 80s.
They sold the Lancia to a team on the East Coast. They got themselves a pair of Supras. They tried that for a little while and said, that's too much work. We're gonna narrow this down to one Supra, one Toyota, one team. Totally a recipe for stress-free Lemons racing.
Yes, well!
Now, one of the side effects of splitting that two Supra team in half was that most of the team members with the actual mechanical knowledge and mechanic experience, they left with that second car. This team knew that going into the Sonoma race, so they hit the built-in matchmaker in the Lemons registration system, okay stupid, and they found a guy who had specifically advertised his ability to work on cars.
Yeah, and I'm sure that guy immediately regretted it because, of course, Supra blew up almost instantly and he was doing all of the heavy lifting from there on out. But he stuck with it. Hours and hours later, they got it all buttoned up, fired that car up, and man, it ran great, except they forgot to put oil in it.
You guys remembered to put oil in it, right?
Nope, of course not. No. Oops.
Well, that was easily fixed. They put oil in it, and then it ran perfectly.
Organizer's choice was a long time coming. Goes to My Fair Lady Mopar and their Nissan 300ZX. Now, this team has been racing Lemons forever and have had various trials and tribulations with this Nissan. And occasionally we've made fun of them for this fact.
There was this time at Sonoma not that long ago when they accidentally spilled gasoline on their hot exhaust while fueling the car and kind of burst into flames. And we told them, you know, guys, you're going to have to move that exhaust. We're not going to let you do that anymore. And they looked at us like we were from Mars.
Yeah, they stared at us talking about, you want us to put the fire tube away from the burn juice?
Yeah, so we made fun of them, but really, here's the thing. From a distance, you look at this car and you think, oh, it's a V8 swap box flared sports car. Like, this is clearly some race fab shop. No, 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 no. When you look at this thing up close, Captain Dan of the team, he's done all of this work himself, his basic hand tool stuff. The V8 is out of a pick-and-pull Dodge Dakota for probably $15. The box flares are hand-bent. He's done everything in his garage, and it is really goddamn cool.
Yeah, so when you don't have a custom shop doing everything for you, doing something like completely redesigning the exhaust is a little bit of a bigger deal for them. But at this race, they ran great. Dan kept the car alive for the whole thing. His teammates love him. This whole effort embodies the spirit of Lemons, a well-deserved organizer's choice.
Another team very much in the Lemon spirit was Team Valiant Effort, and they're what? Valiant! So they were in a little bit of trouble leading into this race. Their transmission crapped out, the 3-speed push-button automatic, because what else do you take to a road race? So they still had that thing apart like Wednesday before the race. They got it all buttoned back together. They attached it to their Slant 6 because, you know, that's what BMWs use. And they took this horrible, antiquated, essentially bone stock car to like a mid-pack, mid-speed finish. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, and if you look at all of the cars in front of it in the standings, not a single one has a slower fast lap than this Valiant. The car that finished directly behind it had a fast lap that was 15 seconds faster. All of that adds up to our grand prize, the Index of Effluency.
And saving the best, well, most visually arresting anyway, for last is the Halloween Meets Gasoline Award sponsored by eBay Motors. This went to Chris Overzet and Buttercup. Now, Chris Overzet, if there were to be a Mount Rushmore of Lemons drivers, Chris is front and center. He's the first guy to get a 24 Hours of Lemons tattoo, by the way.
Isn't that the tattoo that's of the logo from like 2007 that's now 4 generations old?
Well, yes.
So we absolutely love Chris, but well, let's be clear. Very often we don't know what the he's talking about. This time he was sending us these emails like, get ready for Buttercup.
So Chris then shows up in a humongous 75 Lincoln with a horse on the roof. And he's like, look, it's Buttercup.
So yeah, our bad. We had forgotten that 12 years ago there was an entire fur-covered 75 Lincoln with a horse on the top that somebody called Buttercup, and that's what Chris was bringing back. He had a whole new group of drivers in this thing, including one guy who'd never been on the track before and spun literally 75 yards out on his first lap.
I happened to witness this spin myself. The car was going maybe 4 miles an hour. So he comes up to me later. He's a new driver. He genuinely wanted to know what he did wrong. This was his first time on any racetrack of any kind. And I'm like, you know, we always talk about how Lemons is an all-fault environment. You can't blame the tools, all of that. This time I was like, dude, you were going 4. Should have been fine. The problem might have been Buttercup.
So this was really the essence of HMG. I mean, the car had a theme. The car was nothing but a theme. Everybody on the team was in costume all weekend long. They totally owned it. If that's not worth $1,000, I don't know what is. Here's Lemons in a nutshell.
Every second you don't subscribe or watch one of these videos, another Vega is sent to the crusher. Won't you help us save Classic?